It appears to us that a blue-green egg-shaped ship that is covered 8 states in approximately 12 minutes.
Where?
From Jacksonville, Florida, up Washington, D.C., out to Jefferson City, Missouri, Illinois, and Jackson, Tennessee. That was all in 12 minutes. It was streaking overhead at a low altitude. Most recently, we took a call from Adair County in southwest Iowa. 2 young gentlemen were chasing up to 12 lights that were seen to land.
Evan, are you ready?
I'm ready for
what
I don't know.
The second non-consecutive Donald Trump presidency.
I don't know if anyone's ready for that.
No. No. I don't know. All we can do is fuck around and talk about the news. That's all we're capable of, I think. You and me.
Pretty much.
This is Hard Caucus episode 174. We are in our 5th year. Or I guess, are we in our 6th year?
Oh my God.
Is that what that means?
I guess so.
We are a couple months into the 6th year of this podcast, which is a couple of unqualified dorks talking about the state's politics.
It's true. It's true.
And right now, I mean, the big news obviously is that Donald Trump is announcing his various nominees for to fill out his administration when he is inaugurated in a couple months. I mean, that's the path we're on now, unless something really crazy happens. Which, you know, there's been a lot of crazy stuff the past few months.
Hey, liberals, you're real mad right now. It's time for another January 6th.
Yeah, I'll
support it.
I'll come cheer you on. That'll be fun for all of us.
Not participating, but cheering on from the sidelines.
In a couple of years, it'll be like all those people who like, oh yeah, I was at the Capitol on January 6th, but I didn't like go inside.
Yeah.
That'll be us. We'll be a couple of those guys. I wasn't, I think Ariel Pink says that.
Yeah,
he says he was there, but he didn't go in.
Man.
Anyway, I think one of the most notable announcements has been Matt Gaetz for Attorney General.
Absolutely. That's number one.
A lot of people are up in arms about that for good reason. Primarily that he is... he has
pedophile?
Been investigated for sex trafficking minors.
Okay, yeah, allegedly a pedophile. There was some article that came out that was like, someone saw him having sex with a minor, and that was the headline, but it turns out that the person who alleged that was the minor that he had sex with. So it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, why is that the headline then? I saw this happen to me. I saw him do this to me. There's been a lot of stories about that guy, and he continues to evade consequences. And I mean, it looks like this is another attempt at evading those consequences.
Oh, yeah.
Because as soon as Trump announced that, he immediately resigned from Congress, which suspended the ethics investigation.
And then Mike Johnson was like, it would be a terrible precedent if we were to release the results of this investigation. Yeah, it would be a terrible precedent to have like someone nominated for the top law enforcement position in the entire country to have like a criminal investigation into them.
Right.
Well, I guess whatever, it was the Senate investigation, but there was like a criminal investigation too.
Right, there was. The FBI was on him for a while, and that just seemed to sort of evaporate. I mean, I didn't follow the news closely, but it was just like, what was this, like 2-3 years ago? It seemed like the walls were closing in, and then it just like went away. It would be a terrible precedent for members of our government who have committed heinous crimes to ever be held accountable for those crimes. I mean, if you're Mike Johnson, it's a terrible precedent. I don't want to, empty out half of this room.
Right.
Anyway, I brought it up because my favorite piece of news related to that this week, and unfortunately there's not a video of this, it's just a tweet from John Bresnahan. I don't actually know who that is, but Apparently Chuck Grassley was being questioned about the Matt Gaetz nomination just unceasingly by reporters. And John Bresnahan, who is this? I kind of know that name. I don't remember who that is. Anyway.
No idea.
He tweeted, Chuck Grassley was so exasperated by Gaetz' questions that he stopped talking to reporters and stood there stone-faced for 30 seconds.
Damn.
One very funny image, sort of a Mitch McConnell situation.
Mitch McConnell, yeah.
Yeah. Also, very funny typo. Stome-faced with an M. Stone-faced.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good question whether he was just trying to stonewall or stonewall the reporters, or if he was actually having a medical incident.
I mean, he's in his fucking 90s.
Yeah.
You can't expect him to answer all these badgering questions from reporters. So, yeah, he stood there stone-faced for 30 seconds. So I thought it would be a good idea just to make sure that we all understand what that feels like to all of us together, the listeners and the hosts, we're going to sit here stone-faced for the next 30 seconds. Just see what that feels like. And that's it. That's 30 seconds of stone facing. Now, now imagine you ask someone a question and then you were met with that.
Privately, apparently like half of Republican senators are saying that it'll be a real uphill battle to get Matt Gaetz nominated. Which is, of course what they're saying in private. We'll see how the actual vote goes.
Yeah, I really don't know what this is going to look like because he's putting out some crazy names. There's like a Christian nationalist guy for the Defense Department. I forget the guy's name or anything, but he has like a racist tattoo or something. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this.
Mike Huckabee, ambassador to Israel.
Yeah.
Not great.
That's apocalyptic shit right there. Bob
RFK.
Vanderplot's very happy about that.
Yeah,
now,
RFK Jr.
That's going to have some very dangerous consequences, of course. Him in charge of the HHS. But I hold out hope that he acts upon some of his more noble
some of his
instincts.
Some of his stuff is kind of all right. I mean, he's said that marijuana should be decriminalized and psychedelics also, which would be pretty awesome if the only good thing that happens in a Trump administration is they decriminalize weed.
Yeah. I'd like to see him maybe more as like an agricultural guy,
that too.
You know? Yeah. I mean, not to excuse like this, he's like a monstrous person, and he should not really have authority over any of this. But we are where we are. Well, let's talk about something a little more serious, and we're looking back now at what happened just before the election. And we mentioned this a couple times, but didn't really have time to go into it in detail. The Iowa Secretary of State, Paul Pate, who is a dickhead. He's a big proponent of voter ID, which is what he campaigned on in 2014, and how he won that election, and how he has been in charge of our state's elections ever since.
Head man in charge of voter suppression.
Yeah, that's been his entire MO for the past 10 years. So right before, let me just read from this article, because this really gets into like what happened and what were the consequences. The Register published this on November 12th. Sabine Martin wrote this. A new U.S. citizen wanted to vote in Iowa. She was told naturalization papers weren't enough. And so this is all about Marcella Parmentier. Marcella Parmentier's naturalization ceremony in June. Iowa Secretary of State Paul Pate spoke to the group of newly sworn U.S. citizens about the importance of voting. So this is like 5 months ago. And then 1 month ago, he puts out this list of 2,000 people that he thinks should not be allowed to vote.
We really want you to vote until you actually go to the voting place.
Right. She's a 43-year-old Republican from Indianola who came to the U.S. from Brazil in 2015. She was determined to exercise her newly earned rights in November's general election to vote for Donald Trump. So, Paul, this is hurting the wrong people. This was not your intention to stop legal immigrants from voting for Trump. Isn't that ideal circumstances for you? Her attempt to cast a ballot turned into a nightmare when she became a casualty in Iowa's 11th hour attempt to prevent non-citizens from voting. Despite arriving at her Warren County polling place with her U.S. passport in hand, Parmentier said she was stopped by county officials from casting a ballot. She's got a passport.
Yeah.
Do you know how much of a pain in the ass it is to get that?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about getting one, and yeah, it's a pain. You have to provide multiple forms of identification. My uncle actually just got, he's trying to get one, and apparently you have to provide records of your last divorce or something, which he didn't have. So yeah, it's a pain.
Yeah.
That's the most robust form of identification that you can have. A passport.
Right. And to get it, you have to literally put your identifying documents in the mail, not copies of the documents. The documents themselves, you have to put in an envelope and mail to a government office and hope it doesn't get lost and hope they send it back to you. You have to have a physical photograph of yourself that was taken at a pharmacy, in my case.
Yeah, or post office.
Right. Yeah, they do it too. And you have to mail a physical photograph of yourself to the government. Why is this all... why can't this be online? I don't know. All that to say, it's a pain in the ass. If you have one, that's proof that you are a citizen of the United States.
Yeah. If you're a poll worker and someone gives you their passport, then you have a duty to ignore whatever Paul Pate is saying and let them vote.
So she was stopped because her name was on a list of suspected non-citizens circulated to county auditors. A list culled from state records that Pate said he contained errors.
Great job.
Who is the onus on here? Whose responsibility is it to follow up? Do some research? Or do you just I don't know. He just
it doesn't make any sense.
He cross-referenced a couple lists of people and was like, yeah, fuck it. Stop them from voting. How is this legal? I mean, I guess the ACLU is suing over this, but
I mean, fuck yeah, they should be.
Yeah. It took this woman 45 minutes of unsuccessful negotiating at the polls, followed by a drive back home to retrieve more citizenship documents so she could return to cast a provisional ballot. The passport wasn't enough to even get a provisional ballot. They didn't even give her a real ballot ever. And then she had to go to the county auditor's office the next day with more documentation. What was supposed to be a huge day for her turned into somewhat of a nightmare. Marcella's husband, Devin Parmentier, said, "It was embarrassing. It was frustrating." She was one of more than 2,000 people on the Iowa Secretary of State office's list who had self-reported at some point to the Iowa DOT that they were not citizens. And since that list came out, dozens of those flagged have since been confirmed as citizens legally allowed to vote.
Yeah, I wonder how many stories of people on that list just showed up and just gave up. Because, how many of these people, have as much documentation as this lady? Probably not many.
Right. No. I mean, if I was presented with a hurdle like this, I'm not voting.
Yeah.
I don't care enough to do this. I'd probably raise a stink about it and complain on the podcast about it, but I'm not going to go through all this bullshit.
Powerful platform to go after those who harmed you.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. Leading up to the election, the public and Republican groups had pressured election officials to do something about claims of non-citizen voting. All right, there's a link there. There's a link to another article here. And I just want to reiterate. This is Sabine Martin. She writes, leading up to the election, the public and Republican groups had pressured elections officials to do something about claims of non-citizen voting. Okay? Now, I know this is something that Evan and I don't care about. I don't think either of us are bothered by non-citizens voting or attempting to vote in U.S. elections.
No.
But, I'm willing to believe there are people who are concerned about that and are pressuring our state government to do something about it. I'm following the link now. It goes to an article called Iowa Secretary of State Defends Decision to Challenge 2,000 Potential Non-Citizens at Polls. All right. Now, here's where that claim comes from, that the public had been pressuring elections officials. Ashley Hunt Esquivel, a spokesperson for Pate, said the office has come under immense pressure from the public and others to ensure that only citizens are voting and the election process runs smoothly. This is the only source for that claim, that the public was mounting all this pressure on his office to do something about this.
I mean, I'm sure
spokesperson.
I'm sure people who watch like Fox News 24/7 were upset about it because they think that there's like some fucking campaign to whatever they say about immigrants coming to America so they can like install a socialist dictatorship. Whatever the fucking nonsense. I mean, there are people who sincerely believe that, but do their opinions matter in this regard? No, they don't.
Right. And also the public and others.
Yeah, that's funny.
Who is not grouped into the public.
The
privates.
Mm-hmm.
The privates were calling me. The privates keep calling our office and complaining about erection integrity. I don't know. Hey, look at the name of the podcast, people. I'm allowed to make dick jokes.
Yeah.
All right. So the plan was the poll workers were instructed to, whenever anyone who was on the list of 2,000 people, if they came and tried to vote, they were to be challenged and required to cast a provisional ballot instead of just a normal ballot. So I think that what happened to this woman, Marcella Parmentier, was not supposed to happen. But, that's what happens when you just like suddenly spring this on everyone. And we have a voting system that relies almost entirely on like retirees volunteering to work at the polls.
Volunteers.
Yeah. If you suddenly throw a wrench into it, and I mean, your goal is to stop certain people from voting, know. I guess he got what he wanted.
When I went to vote, like immediately after I put my ballot in the machine, it malfunctioned and stopped taking other people's ballots.
Oh,
so they had to just be like, you could leave it with us and we promise, fingers crossed, that we're going to vote it. Which is awesome. So yeah, maybe there is a big conspiracy here that we're just not aware of.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people saying that Elon Musk's Starlink satellites somehow cheated the election. I didn't look into it. I don't know how that would work, but
yeah, man, I want to go back to hanging chads and Diebold and all that.
Yeah. The 2004 conspiracy is that Ohio machines were rigged, right? Yeah.
Right. I've seen people bring that up in reference to Kamala Harris losing and saying that there is some sort of, I don't know, basically implying there's some sort of conspiracy.
Yeah. I mean, hey, go for it. There's no reason not to believe these things.
If your opponents are doing it, you got to come up with some kind of alternative conspiracies.
Yeah. I think what matters is, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
We can talk about it.
We talked about that earlier, but
we can spin up all these theories, but it's got to motivate you to some sort of action, I think. So anyone who was forced to cast a provisional ballot was then required to bring a proof of citizenship to their local auditor's office, and the deadline for that was Tuesday. So I guess they had a week. Yeah, that's reasonable. I was thinking it was a shorter amount of time, but I mean, honestly, this is putting way too many hurdles up, right? A full tally of how many ballots were challenged around the state and how many were ultimately counted was not immediately available. According to Iowa law, challenged voters who can provide proof of citizenship, such as a passport or naturalization certificate, should be advised by elections officials that they can cast a ballot as normal.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, so they get a little bit more into what happened in this particular incident. And you have to just like sort of imagine, because this was happening all over the state. There are 2,000 people on this list. Mm-hmm. This is the one example that's like being written about in the article, but what else happened that we don't know about? Sheila Bingaman was a poll worker for the first time in Warren County on Election Day. She was told there was one voter to challenge in their precinct on Election Day. That's Marcella Parmentier. I don't know how to say her last name. I've been just guessing the whole time.
I think you got it.
Our precinct chair called our Warren County auditor to get permission for her to vote a regular ballot since she was clearly a U.S. citizen. All right? So the poll worker gets it, sees the passport, knows the truth. The auditor told both of us that we had no choice but to force her to vote a provisional ballot because Iowa was under some sort of court order.
What?
So I think what they were referring to there is that the ACLU tried to get some sort of like temporary injunction on this list, and the courts rejected that, meaning that they were to challenge the citizenship of everyone on this list on Election Day. Mm-hmm. But that's not what the court decision meant.
Doesn't seem to have anything to do with like she has a fucking passport.
Do they have the auditor's name in here? I can't remember.
Well, yeah, we need fucking Rob Sand on this shit.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, this is kind of his purview, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Warren County auditor.
Busy doing other shit.
Kimberly Sheets, it looks like, is the auditor of Warren County, Iowa. So, Kimberly, what's your deal? There's a lot of blue on her website, so might be a Democrat.
I doubt it. Just knowing Warren County.
No, she's the Democrat.
Oh, she is. Okay.
So that is a Democrat working hand in hand with our Republican Secretary of State doing widespread voter suppression in the state of Iowa. All right, Kimberly Sheets. Shame. As long as assuming what's being said by Sheila Bingaman is true in this article, that this was your decision.
Yeah, because she has a lot of reason to lie.
So the end of this article, they talk about like the response to this by groups who are affected negatively. A group of naturalized citizens and the League of United Latin American Citizens of Iowa sued Pate over his instructions to county auditors regarding the list. The lawsuit alleges county auditors and state officials refused to clarify before Election Day which documents were needed to vote. It also argues that the DOT data is outdated. I can believe that. Mm-hmm. And swept up registered voters who are now citizens. And honestly, maybe that was the intent. I can't imagine that the DOT records are that reliable. And how frustrating is it that all of these different governmental departments have conflicting data and they're all collecting their own shit. They're responsible for their own records and archives. Why is this not centralized in any way? Like, what does this paint a picture of our government that looks... What does it look like?
Sounds like it works for every private company I've ever worked for. Well, there's a lot of left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing situations, especially as you scale up, as get more people involved.
And they have a quote from a Lithuanian immigrant who became a citizen in 2022, part of the lawsuit. When she went to vote on Election Day in Lee County, she was told she wasn't able to cast a ballot because her citizenship was being challenged. The whole thing is just like, who is granting citizenship? The government. Who is in charge of running the elections? The government. Who is giving out driver's licenses? The government. So why do they not know who's a citizen and who's not? It was all a stunt. It was all a stunt.
Absolutely.
To stoke fear among people who might be living here without documents, and to suppress the vote of certain demographics. That's why he did it.
2,000 people. Like, it's fucking insane.
Right. And yeah, it has effects on not just those 2,000 people. Basically, anyone who's become a citizen in the past couple of years probably was worried that something bad might happen.
Yeah, the psychological. I mean, 2,000 people is obviously not going to swing the election, but yeah, psychologically, I'm sure a lot of people were just like, oh, like I might have to worry about this. Like I might have to. Like, it might be a bigger pain in the ass than I expected it to be. So, like, who gives a fuck? I have to vote for Kamala Harris, like, also. So, like...
I already don't want to do this.
It's already a tough fucking sell.
There was a good article from Iowa's News Now, our local CBS affiliate, that had some numbers in it that I thought were interesting. Most of the challenges on this list came from 7 counties. So 94 in Polk County, 33 in Johnson, 27 in Scott and Dallas counties, and 21 in Woodbury County. Here we go. This is what I really wanted to get to. In Lynn County, Auditor Joel Miller said he received a list of 150 voters and found that just 3 of those could not be proven to be citizens. So they still might be.
Wow.
But just with his records, the Lynn County auditor, this list of 150 people, he could prove that 147 of them were eligible voting U.S. citizens.
Wow.
So do all that shit before you release the list. I mean, don't do it in the first place. This is all
don't
stupid.
Release the list.
Yeah. What a mess. There was also an opinion piece in the Register that I hated something in this, but I honestly can't remember. I've read a lot of articles the past couple days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is the part I didn't like. So, okay, Des Moines Register opinion piece from November 10th about this issue. Key points. Iowa should work out problems earlier. I agree. But I think it was Paul Pate's intention to do this at the last minute to cause as much chaos as possible. Mm-hmm. The second key point. The number of non-citizens allegedly registering to vote, or allegedly registered to vote, is concerning. No, disagree. Not concerned.
Absolutely tiny number.
Yeah.
And as we've shown, legitimate voters, like 99% of them.
Yeah, exactly. Key point number 3. Leave politics out of election administration. What is that they say about toothpaste and tubes?
Right.
This is a fantasy that political leanings can be separated from the administration of elections. It's a partisan office. No person is unbiased. Sorry, but this cannot be taken out of the equation. Mm-hmm. And seek alternatives before burdening eligible voters. Sure, but I think the real lesson is don't do any of this shit.
Don't burden eligible voters.
Don't ever burden eligible voters. Yeah, okay, and then this is the part about the number of non-citizens registered is concerning here. Pate and his team found real problems. The groups that sued to try to stop his directive to challenge ballots did not dispute that some 250 current Iowa voter registrations belonged to people who are not eligible under the federal and state constitutions. That number is unacceptable, and determining how this happened is critical. 250. Let's see. Iowa eligible voters.
Yeah. Do you know the errors happen, right? In fact, they're expected.
Right. So we've got about 2.2 million registered voters, I think, in the state. So that's what, 0.1% or something. Who cares?
Yeah.
And I have to stress something we talked about before, that all of these elections rely almost entirely on free labor from old people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if that might have something to do with how something like that would happen.
Yeah. And fucking paper.
Yeah, right. And not to shit on poll workers, it's an important job with this shitty system we have. It's not their fault, but you can see how mistakes might happen.
Yeah. No, I mean 250 out of 200 2 million plus. That's actually really good. You know,
right.
Most office jobs I've worked, that'll get you promotion, having that low of an error rate.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Good job, everyone. Yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about that situation. And I think people know the actual moral stance on United States elections is that every human being on Earth, and maybe even some animals, should be allowed to cast a vote in who the president of the United States is.
Bigfoot, for example.
Yeah, I mean, Bigfoot is, it's not fair. Bigfoot was here before European settlers, and we treat him like an outsider. Like, what?
Yeah, he's a naturalized citizen, I think, at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
If he predated the formation of the United States.
Yeah. You got to ask yourself bigger questions. Like, what is this country's role in the world? What do we do to all of the people of the world? And should they have a say in who is leading this death machine? I think so. If we're limiting our imagination just to democratic elections, we shouldn't be opening this up to everybody.
Right.
And I mean, if you live in this country, regardless of your citizenship status, you are part of this national community, and you should have a say in who's at the top of it, because it affects you and you affect it. You are part of the system. And if you're mad that they didn't follow the rules, well, why did they come here in the first place? Probably because we fucked up the place they were born.
Yeah. Usually that is it's a big factor.
Voting is bullshit, but everyone should be allowed to do it. It's not completely bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be as bullshit if we had proportional representation, but
this shit is part of why it's bullshit, is that they can pick and choose who actually gets to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this shouldn't take much time, but we just finished one election, and it's time to start thinking about the next one. So, Evan, I need you to know about this. A candidate has declared for the 2026 gubernatorial race.
Hell yeah.
And I'm going to let Beth Malicki tell us about him.
City Man has become the first 2026 Iowa gubernatorial candidate to announce his campaign. Democrat Paul Dahl has run for office in numerous times in the past, though, including for governor and for Congress. He made his announcement at the Iowa State House today. He says if elected, he will reverse the state's strict abortion law, increase funding for higher ed, and tackle water pollution. And he also said if elected, he only wants to serve one term.
I believe what I want to accomplish will be accomplished in one term. I don't need to serve 40 years like Terry Branstad, who just did that to become the longest-serving governor. Go away.
No.
Dude, this guy rocks. Paul Dahl, the people's champ. He got the internet going nuts.
Terry Branstad was not the governor for 40 years. I think it's closer to 20. But, hyperbole is fun. I do it as much as anyone, so I'm not going to knock him for that. But what did you think about what he said? Terry Branstad only did that so he could become the longest serving governor. He was just going for a Guinness World Record or something.
Yeah. It's just an endurance thing. That's all it is.
Yeah. I'm kind of about that, strip away some of the power of these elected leaders and just have it be sort of something to do for fun, to test how long you can be in that role.
Yeah. It's like a video game.
Yeah. Min-max elected office.
Yeah. Min effort, max length in office.
Yeah. All right, so Paul Dahl, what do you think of his attire? I know people listening can't see him.
Okay, this man, I feel like he needs to fight Joseph Dobrian in a cage.
That's exactly what
I think he is the exact. He's like if Joseph Dobrian was a liberal, basically.
Yeah. He's got the same kind of suit and hat look. It's a little bit more it's a little like messier, I think, than Dobrin.
Yeah,
who's
well, that
always,
makes
like,
sense because he's a liberal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
a tweed
yeah.
suit. And he's got like the paisley tie, which Joseph Dobrin would never wear. Actually, Joseph Dobrin should critique this man's fit. I'm sure he would have some interesting things to say about it.
Yeah, let me pull up that essay on neckties that we read a couple years ago, because I don't remember the rules laid out by Dobrin. He has been he's been leaving a lot of Facebook comments, by the way.
Really?
I've been informed by many people who have encountered Dobrin in the wild recently. He is making his opinions known out in the local news comment sections, so keep an eye out for that. Don't believe anything he says.
Just laugh and move on. Don't engage.
Dahl says this time he'll be more successful than in his previous attempts by campaigning in rural areas, and he'll sleep in his car while campaigning. First,
that's what's up.
No one has ever lost a campaign who has slept in the car while campaigning.
That is a really good thing to say, though.
Challenge for Dahl will be to see if he can get 3,500 signatures needed so that he can qualify to appear on the ballot as a Democrat. Republican Governor Kim Reynolds has not yet announced whether she is running for re-election.
Ooh. And then the KCRG video quickly cuts to Joe Biden and Donald Trump in the Oval Office.
Mm-hmm.
What an image to leave this on. So Paul Dahl running for governor as a Democrat. You know, those three points that she mentioned, reverse the abortion ban, more money for education, and cleaning up the water. You know, that's probably should just be the Democrat campaign, regardless of who the candidate is.
He's already a front runner for me. I think I might consider voting for this man.
He's the best candidate I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
I do, however, I just happened to be on Twitter at the right moment. Twitter user Liberally Salted is familiar with Paul Dahl's past and posted a couple links to old news stories about him. So here is one from The Messenger, which is Fort Dodge, Iowa's newspaper. This was published in 2013. Yes. Okay. So he was running for governor back then as well. All right. And it gets into a little bit of his troubled past here. Dahl is a bus driver for Midas Council of Governments, but from April 2011 to July of that year, he was the director of the Kendall Young Library before being fired by the library's board. The board dismissed Dahl during a July 11th, 2011 public meeting after some of its members said they had received multiple complaints about him. The exact nature of those complaints was not revealed during the meeting. And then it also goes a little bit further in the past. In the early 90s, Dahl was an associate pastor of Faith United Methodist Church in Humboldt. But the ministry, he said, was never his ultimate career goal. While at the Humboldt Church, he launched a campaign for the U.S. House of Representatives. That led to his departure from the church. I don't know if that's allowed. I don't think you can be an associate pastor and run for office at the same time.
You skipped over a quote where he said, "When I went to seminary to get the ethical foundation to be involved in politics." So he went to become an ordained minister so that he could become active in politics?
Yeah, some people do a sort of a fake stint in the military as a resume builder for politics. This guy became a man of God just because it would look better to run for office. Yeah, I was under the impression that everyone who tried to be a faith leader was 100% sincere.
Yeah, that's kind of a really important thing, I think.
It seems really scummy, but I'm sure it's not the only one.
Yeah.
The United Methodist Church, in a sense, said I was using the church for political purposes.
Yeah. You just admitted to it.
I can see how they might have said that. The candidate describes himself as a progressive populist and a political mystic.
I'm sympathetic to the first part, but I don't know what political mystic means.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Yeah. To foster economic growth, he proposes, and keep in mind this is 2013, okay? He proposes to abolish the corporate income tax.
Oh, okay.
And raise the minimum wage at the same time. What's the logic there? I guess I guess if you don't take as much of the corporate owner's money and force him to give more of it to his workers, it's a win-win.
Yeah, well, they'll make up the taxes by taxing the higher wage,
Right, just a kid. Wow, this is like a very clear-cut example of all of the burden being placed on the person with less money.
Very progressive populist.
This makes a lot of sense. Great job with that. I can't believe he didn't win. So he was facing Jack Hatch, Bob Krause, and Tyler Olson in the primary that year. If I remember right, Jack Hatch won the primary and then lost the general abysmally. Okay, but there's another slightly more recent piece of news about Paul Dahl that Liberally Salted posted on Twitter. And this is from July of 2019. This is from the Webster City government website, and this is just sort of like a summary of a city council meeting. Paul Dahl approached the council with 3 concerns. He asked if the city would consider, when cutting down trees, to replace the tree with 2 new plantings.
Good idea.
That's nice. I
like that.
And then I'm gonna skip a bit here. On a more serious note, Dahl said he was called to City Hall on Friday to meet with Kent Harfst, acting city manager, and police chief Shiloh Mork. Shiloh Mork?
Shiloh Mork and Mindy. Let's go.
It's a hell of a name. And this is a quote from Paul. I was read a letter from Kent that said I was banned from the pool and also Fuller Hall because of inappropriate acts. I'm still uncertain what I did, but I'm banned. If I show up on the property, the police will be called and I will be taken off the property.
Man, this guy really is the fucking liberal doppelganger of Joseph Dobrik. Literally everything about him.
Yeah. I still don't know what I did, and I probably will never find out what I did to justify this treatment. The decision was made, and I was never part of the process. And then the mayor, John Hawkins, says, you must have had some idea because you were part of the process because you were affected. Were there any criminal charges? Asked Councilman Logan Welch. No, not unless I step back on the property, Dahl said. And then this was the city manager said that comments made by Dahl were very inappropriate and made the staff members uncomfortable. Some of them were minors, some of them were 18 or older.
What did he do?
Right, they're not being explicit about it, but it does not conjure up a good image.
No, it doesn't sound good.
How does a grown man get banned from a public pool? If we were to speculate,
right?
The implications are not good.
No.
And it sounds like it was just like he was saying things. Not that he necessarily did something horrible, but that he was saying inappropriate things. And, what could you say that's so bad that you get a lifetime ban from a public pool?
Right. I don't think I've ever heard of a lifetime ban from a public pool. How are those teenage lifeguards that they circulate every year going to know?
That's true. They keep his photo up behind the counter. Don't let this man in. Trust us. I know you weren't here last year, but yeah, this is a lifetime ban. As long as I live here, I can't be on the property. If I'm here another 35 years, I can't go on the property. And then, as he closed his segment of the public comment period, so I take it everyone's okay with a lifetime ban as long as I live here? And then the mayor, Hawkins, reminded Dahl that the public comments section of the council meetings are for questions and comments. The council typically does not take action, but may review and research the matter for further discussion. And, I didn't find anything else about that, so I assume he's still banned.
He's still banned.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, I should have seen if I could find a video of that. They may not have been live streaming their city council meetings all the way back in 2019, but I should try to remember to find that if I can, if it exists. Okay, so we've talked quite a bit about state politics today, which is the primary focus of this podcast, but obviously the national scene is very lively right now because we just had an upset election and just shit's crazy again,
Mm-hmm. Well, people are going crazy. It's been crazy for a while.
Yeah, not that it ever wasn't, but it's just like the heat has turned up a bit. There's more focus. People are talking about politics again when they maybe were not inclined to for the past couple years. And,
yeah,
it was a good time to check out so that you would be extra surprised when the bad thing happened.
Yeah, no one could have seen this coming.
And the thing that caught my eye this week, there's a lot of talk about, like, whose fault is this? Mm-hmm. Why did Trump get elected again? God damn it. And I think most of the national journalistic community is presenting very wrong opinions about whose fault it is and why it happened.
Interesting.
And the example of this that I thought was most interesting was this piece in Politico by Jonathan Martin, which is titled, "Democrats Wonder, Are We Too Correct?"
Hell of a headline.
What's
that rule that every time there's a question in a question in a headline, and the answer is no?
The answer is no.
Definitely applies here.
Are we too correct? I would say no. Just like that clip we listened to last week, a flawlessly run campaign. I don't think you can ever say that about a campaign that loses. I don't think you can say that a political party that just lost pretty bad, I don't think they're too correct.
Mm-hmm.
They're clearly wrong about something, right?
Yeah. Let's get into it, I guess.
All right, so Jonathan Martin writes, "It sounds odd, but the scale of Vice President Kamala Harris's defeat may double as a silver lining. By Evan's already rolling his eyes and shaking his head. I got through one sentence. By losing all 7 battleground states, suffering their first popular vote loss in 2 decades, and most importantly, watching President-elect Donald Trump prevail with a working-class coalition that was once their own, Democrats have an opportunity to turn despair into action." We can point to recent cycles just to see how that works out.
Yeah. I mean, a Politico article when they're talking about Donald Trump winning with a working class coalition, I'm sure they're going to have some really great ideas for how to win over those people again.
Yeah. And I mean, you can just as easily dismiss the things that I say, probably more easily because I don't have a national platform and I'm just some guy talking to my friend. But but I don't know that I don't know that Donald Trump prevailed with a working class coalition so much as the Democrats just don't have a coalition now.
More like the Democrats abandoned the working class and are like transforming into a party of like professional elites type people, like $100,000 or more. That's their demographic now. That's like the only people they're winning over.
And that's not a demographic that wins you a national election.
No.
That's not that many people.
Man, it's crazy. We'll get into it. They did better Kamala Harris did better among like white voters than Biden or Hillary, but did worse among like every other demographic. Like it's wild.
Yeah. And that maybe undermines the entire point of this article. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Unlike in 2016 when they won the popular vote while losing by a sliver in the swing states, or 2020 when they rebounded and won both, Democrats now have a mandate for change. The word mandate is usually used with the side that won the election.
Right.
So it's nice that they both have their own sort of mandates now.
Yeah, what the fuck is this, man?
They are mandated to change. They are obligated to change, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're just basically saying, like, we've already decided how they're going to change, which is true. They're going to say, we'll get into it. Again, they just have to pander to the white working class guys more. That's the problem, is that they didn't pander to them hard enough. They pandered to, I don't know, like, Zionists?
I don't know. I mean, I'm a white working class male. I'm not so young anymore, but I certainly wasn't being pandered to by the Democrats.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was more racist, they would have been pandering to me.
I think that's kind of the point of this article.
If I was a guy who wanted to lock down the border, but in a way that is sort of like the messaging about it is sort of confusing. If that really appealed to me, then the Democrats were aiming for winning me over for sure.
Yeah.
So the mandate for change, not just on tactics or points of emphasis, the breadth of their defeat and the number of voters who abandoned them present the party an opening to rethink their orientation around affinity group politics. The question
this is the mandate. This is the mandate. It's fucking whatever. They were talking too much about trans people, though. I'm pretty sure Kamala Harris really wasn't doing that. Like,
they avoided
very much,
that at all
if
costs,
at all.
basically.
Yeah, like what the fuck? I hate these people so much.
It presents the party with an opening to abandon the marginalized. I'm so shocked that this is the takeaway. Which
they're already doing and are already performing worse among them. Like,
that's what their 2024 campaign was. They already did it. The question is whether they'll be emboldened or cower when one of, quote, the groups, as identity-based organizations are invariably called, speaks up. Invariably called?
What the fuck?
I love to refer to groups of people as the groups.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Invariably. Everyone calls them this. The reward is alluring. Whoever can retain the party's traditional commitments to the most vulnerable and appeal to those voters who just rejected Harris will emerge as the Democrats' strongest 2028 nominee and perhaps the next president. What is he asking? The assumption here is that the people who rejected the Kamala Harris campaign are bigoted, right?
Yeah, I think so.
People who were turned off because the Democrats were too supportive of minorities. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, I think that's...
So whoever can thread that needle right next time will definitely
win.
What the
fuck? It so pisses me. I hate this shit.
Let's be clear up front. The best tonic for any losing political party is still the inevitable excesses, overreach, and failures of the opposition.
Yeah, they were really banking on that, huh?
Was that proven? Wasn't that just disproven?
That was disproven.
For all their skills, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were also the beneficiaries of good timing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, true, but whatever.
In a country this polarized, though, the next Democratic standard bearer will bear an even heavier burden than those generational talents, because there are simply fewer swing voters available. Well, this is nice to hear. Somebody acknowledging that the swing voter does not exist in large numbers, and you should not orient the entirety of your political strategy to winning over a mythical being. It should be Bigfoot instead. A mythical being that does exist and does impact the future. If Democrats don't change their appeals, they'll face the same cultural barriers with vast swaths of the country they have in every recent election. First, they must recognize that they unwittingly seeded the ground for Trump's revival. Their leftward acceleration under his presidency handed him the fodder he needed to portray the opposition as radical.
Shut the fuck up. This is like politics is a team sport. I mean, this is Politico, I guess, so that's like their whole MO. But it's just so ridiculous. They don't need to abandon fucking identity politics. They need to ground it in something that actually make the appeal that these policies that we support, which they don't support, benefit every group.
Right. This is
some kind of universal politics where we kind of realize that all of our interests, unless you're like a very, very rich, powerful person, are pretty much aligned in the same direction.
Yeah. I don't know that they really frame it this way still, but it is still the same basic concept. This idea that there are, well, I guess they do in terms of like libertarianism, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, like that there's an opposition between these like social issues and economic issues, right? That was like the way people talked about American politics all the time, like a few years ago. And I think that has gone away a little bit, but like these are not separate concepts.
Absolutely not.
And I can't believe they're still talking about it like this.
Well, I can. I mean, it benefits the political class if they talk about it like this.
That's true. Yeah, and if you separate these concepts, then you serve to maintain the status quo that benefits those people. Yeah. I just disagree with this this summation of the past 8 years. Like, Democrats went hard left while Trump was president. Debatable.
Yeah.
I think there was some shift left, primarily as a result of the Bernie Sanders campaign, but there was also inter-party strong resistance to that leftward shift. This was not like the party itself fully committed to like communism, obviously not.
No.
But also, they did that while Trump was president and then beat him.
Right.
And then didn't continue a leftward shift and then lost to him again.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like the Biden years were a continued leftward shift?
No, I mean, like,
in the party?
I think a lot of it, whatever leftward shift there was simply a result of, like, again, material conditions, like where they kind of felt like they had to make more appeals in that direction.
A necessity to kind of like make up for the economic hardships of the pandemic.
Yeah, and 2024 we didn't have any like left primary challenge because there wasn't a fucking primary. I mean, there was. Biden won. Like, that's so fucking stupid.
I mean, whatever left wing of the Democratic Party exists fully supported Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. So what was there? But the Biden administration, the Biden presidential term, was a gradual dissipation of all of those like left economic programs, if you want to call them that. Really, it was just just fucking survival money.
It was it was like we have like decades and decades of supply side economics, and we're gonna slightly tilt it towards demand for like 2 years, like
just to prevent like utter collapse,
economic collapse.
Yeah. And while Biden was president, we all saw all of that just be stripped away. Mm-hmm. This was not a continued like shift towards economic populism.
They fucking dismantled the social safety net.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, it was expanded, but then if you take it away, it doesn't fucking do much good, does it?
Yeah. All right, so let me read this. The shift was well-meaning, this shift to the left while Trump was president. The shift was well-meaning and even understandable. Democrats wanted to redouble their commitment to those under duress at a time of threat, but it was political malpractice.
Shut the fuck up. I fucking hate this shit.
Well, I think it was political malpractice because they didn't mean it. They didn't mean it.
I know.
They were saying it to look good.
That's the crux of it. That's what, I mean, it's like, no one believes that the Democrats like are. You're fucking like an absurd right winger if you think that they're like too woke. You probably don't know that you're an absurd right winger if you think that. But like, the problem is that people do not believe that they actually care about what they're saying because they've proven through the actual actions and policies that they've supported that they don't fucking actually care about any of the identity politics stuff.
Exactly. And honestly, like the following couple sentences are a good example. Look no further than Harris's now famous support of trans surgery for prisoners. That was a commitment she made in 2019 because she and her advisors thought core Democrats wanted such purity. Mm-hmm. In truth, they simply wanted to beat Trump, which Joe Biden wisely recognized, but most others in the party misread the moment. So he kind of seems to get it there. Like, she didn't earnestly believe that. She just thought that that's what would appeal to the voting public. And then she dropped out before the primary actually started. But in truth, they simply wanted to beat Trump. They weren't saying those things because they were actually committed to them, as proven by their actions once they actually did beat Trump. Mm-hmm. And anyone who actually remembers that she said all that stuff, which was brought up in campaign ads, so maybe more people remembered it than otherwise would have, also see that they didn't do shit while they had the power, So it's very clear you got an A and a B. Oh, you didn't mean it.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, it's like every Democratic campaign, too. It's not Kamala Harris. They're always going to run left in the primaries and then pivot to the center and just throw all the people under the bus that they just pandered to. Like,
right. And there are consequences to that. People remember what you said, and they can recognize that it doesn't match your actions once you have power.
Right. And that consequence is Donald Trump performing better among literally every minority group than and it's like a progression. It's not just 2024. That's been a trend since at least 2016 that Donald Trump is doing better among literally every minority group than Republicans in the past.
Right. So the more Trump targeted vulnerable constituencies, the more Democrats sounded like campus faculty members attempting to placate radicalized students for whom identity is central. Yet that only further alienated those voters who don't see the world through the same prism, which was one thing when those voters were blue-collar white people. I mean, the rest of this is pretty, the same fucking stupid shit, but...
Yeah.
Basically, what Politico is saying is the answer is that Democrats should stop pretending that they care.
Mm-hmm. They should stop doing identity politics unless it's for white people and unless it's for Zionists. Because those are the only two identity politics I think they actually did lean into in the last election.
Yeah. And, okay, I'll ask this question. Radicalized students for whom identity is central. Who is identity not central for?
Right.
Why do we only place that label on people who, I don't know, have an identity that's not the...
That's not the default?
defaults, powerful white man. I think that a lot of white people, being white is central to their identity. It just it doesn't stick out as much because that's societally the default.
It's not expressed the same way.
Right. It's not, you're not sort of upending any sort of social, social expectations by just being white, I guess.
Right. Right. You're not expected to vote a certain way simply for being white either.
Yeah. And you kind of don't have to express it in a way that is confrontational because, you just are who you are. Mm-hmm. And nobody, I don't know. It's all designed to placate you.
Yeah. Again, it's all this stuff is just a preference for conservative policies because people who's Politico owned by? Isn't it some fucking right-wing? Isn't that right-wing German guy?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Either way.
I'm just looking at this. Oh, parent organization is Axel Springer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they talk about how Rahm Emanuel may be the next DNC chair.
Yeah. Great fucking choice.
We need to chart a new path forward.
Yeah.
Oh, bring this guy back.
We need the exact same politics. We just need some fucking complete asshole to sell them. We're not going to ideologically change because, again, that's not what they're about.
Right. Right.
And that's what all of this stuff just fails to recognize. There needs to be an ideological shift if any of this is going to get better, and they can't make an ideological shift when the entire so-called left-wing... sorry, my brain's malfunctioning.
Yeah, it's all right. It's because it's impossible to see them actually turning into something else.
Right.
How do you put this into words? Let me read the last couple bits here of this article, and then we can wrap up. Maine Governor Janet Mills, they quote her here at the end. Mills said Democrats are seen as for transgender this and that, every multicultural person, which only hurts them when they're perceived to be forgetting a whole bunch of other people who don't view themselves falling into that pigeonhole. How do you read this other than oh, she sucks? She's racist and has a problem with trans people.
That's, I think, the only way you can read it. I mean,
it's a problem that the Democrats are seen as championing trans people and multicultural people.
Yeah.
Well, a problem among people who dislike those people, which is a bad thing to be. We need to appeal more to racists and misogynists. That's Democrats are going to look themselves in the mirror and say, we need to get more racist.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only fucking response to this kind of argument. Of course that's what they're going to do.
They'll also have to make choices on substance, and that will prove more difficult. It sure will. Look no further than the backlash Representative Seth Moulton drew last week by questioning whether people born as boys should participate in girls' sports. People born as boys, otherwise known as trans girls.
Yeah, I mean, that's the people are getting mad. One, it's like, it's whatever, this political guy is probably on Twitter or whatever and probably gets ratioed or, you know, sees people like getting mad at framing like this, which is like, people are mad because Democrats are accepting the exact same framing as Republicans and being more racist and being more sexist and anti-LGBT. Like, that's why people are mad about it.
Yes.
You can appeal to more than just, like, it's not either or, you know, like, it's so fucking ridiculous to act like that.
A good counterexample, honestly, you know, I'm reluctant to give props to any Democrats, but Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, seems to be doing a good job talking about this shit without being a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible.
Moulton wasn't alone in questioning perceived orthodoxy, and the more who join his ranks, not just on this issue, but broadly speaking, will eventually find safety in numbers. Or at least they ought to. Losing and losing badly should have that effect. Right. All right. So just like always, the only answer is for Democrats to become more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
The return of the blue dogs. That's the only path forward for them. Get worse. I hate these people.
I hate them.
And I hope that anyone with a conscience, if you see the Democrats pushing towards just throwing more and more people under the bus, you are less willing to support them.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we're not the majority of people now, but that should be the end goal, is like some sort of political movement that has a goddamn conscience.
Yeah.
And that comes with like economic programs that help everybody without excluding people based on their whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
To each according to their needs.
Yeah.
From each according to their abilities. Okay. I guess the end goal hasn't actually changed, has it?
Yeah. It hasn't. Also remember there was a campaign that said like fight for someone you don't know, like kind of making that like kind of a big thing. Also kind of a campaign that performed really well among all of the groups that Donald Trump has been performing better with lately,
right?
Compared to other compared to Democrats, like
which Politico just suggested the Democrats should abandon.
Mm-hmm.
Bad,
absolutely insane. Fuck these people.
Bad. All right. Well, as we wrap up, if you have any thoughts on this, you can call us at 319-849-8733. Leave us a voicemail. You may end up on an episode of Rock Hard Call Us, which you can find on our Patreon, patreon.com/Rock Caucus. It's only $1 a month for all the audio you could ever want. You can, that's all I need to say about that. My trio Wombat will be on tour next weekend. We'll be in Minneapolis on November 22nd, Iowa City, November 23rd, and I expect to see you all there because I know you live here.
Yeah, I'm planning to go to that one.
Nice. I will shout out Evan from the stage.
You don't have to. I'll be very embarrassed if you do that, actually.
And we'll be in Chicago on November 24th. You can find details at justinkcomer.com/shows. We're also releasing a new Wombat album on Monday, the 18th. So I'll put a little clip from that at the end of the episode if you don't know what you're getting into. And maybe that will convince you to come to the show. I wanted to also, as we close, give a shout out to the newly established Iowa City Community Fridge, which is a community fridge run by and for members of our community, open 24/7. Okay, this is a great thing. They had one in Des Moines for a while. Mm-hmm. I know that the people behind this in Iowa City have been working on it for quite a while, trying really hard to make it happen. It's finally happening, and I'm happy to see that. They're having some kind of event to sort of learn more about it on Tuesday. I think it's at like 2 p.m. I don't have the details of that in front of me. Sorry, I pulled up the wrong link, but I'm gonna link to like everything you need to know about the Iowa City Community Fridge in the episode description. So you should check that out and support it in any way you can. All right. That's been Rock Hard Caucus. Evan, do you have any other closing thoughts?
I guess the only other thing, another group that is doing a lot of important work, and especially with Trump becoming next president, Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice. It's another really good organization to assist with migrants. Legal challenges that come with that. So that's another group to recommend.
Yes. And migrants are an important part of our community.
Absolutely.
And they should be allowed to stay here and live full lives. That's all that needs to be said about it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you later. We're going to record a Call Us episode now, so check that out if you want to hear more of us.